Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms, and I got my co-host with me here tonight, Dale. You can find us over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale. How's it going tonight, Dale?
Hey, I am doing very well. I am exhausted, but I am ready to talk about ADP and talk about guys I love and guys you hate.
Yeah, it's always a good time. Dale's finally done with his playing around, so
Yep, finally.
he's finally done with his theater drama or whatever, Ghost,
Yes.
the Ghost with Whoopi. You played Whoopi, right?
Oh, always.
Right. So Dale finally has some free time, so he should be back on the podcast pretty much every episode, unless I'm doing an extra one. If any news breaks, there's really no news right now. We're in peak off season, and it's only going to get worse as you go into June. Hopefully in July things will start picking up a little bit more, but we're going to be here all off season long, providing content for you guys. And right now we're going to be doing, Dale spilled the beans a little bit, but we're going to be doing an ADP review of the top 100. And we're using Keep Trade Cut. Now, I don't recommend using Keep Trade Cut for your rankings because it's garbage. It's based off the community input, and to be honest with you, I think there's a lot of dumb people out there, and you've probably seen a lot of them in your leagues, and you like those people because they're free money. Well, those people are voting on these players and their rankings, so they're helping to determine the ranking of these guys. But that said, we're going to be using Keep Trade Cut for our ADP review because it is a community consensus. And again, the community is dumb on a lot of things, and we're going to show you some of it right now. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. And then I think on Thursday, so this is Tuesday, you guys are gonna be listening on Thursday, we're going to be coming out with a mock draft, startup mock draft. Going through the first 6 rounds, maybe just kind of going through and putting this ADP to use. Maybe we'll go through the top 100 in there as well and kind of see how the teams kind of draft and how we would approach a startup right now if it was us. So this is draft season. Everyone loves to be joining new leagues. So yeah, we'll give you guys some good actionable advice, I feel, here in the next couple weeks. So Dale, anything else?
Hey, I am all ready for it, and I am just ready for just football. So
I know.
So, whatever I can get, I'm going to get. Can't wait.
Dale, you have any shares of Bijan in your leagues?
I don't. Unfortunately, I will never, ever, ever get a share of Bijan. I'm just happy to have some Ohio State players, like with JSN and CJ Stroud in the league. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Yeah,
I gotta say, I have him in 3 leagues, and it feels great.
Oh my gosh.
Feels great. I didn't earn the picks, Dale. I traded for him. I traded for Bijan.
I wouldn't be shocked if you earned a few. But
I wish I earned them, to be honest. It'd save me some money, probably. But
that's true.
No. So that said, today we're going to jump in. We're going to give you guys 2 guys that we love, we think that are going way too low in the top 100 ADP, and then 2 guys that we think are going to be way too high, and that's 2 each. So 8 players here tonight. And yeah, you can let us know over on Twitter, on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you're there, if you can, just leave us a 5-star review, a thumbs up, anything, a subscription just helps out the podcast, and we're trying to grow all off season long. So again, we can't do this without you guys, and we're trying to grow for you guys. Hopefully you guys like the advice that we're giving you, and we're helping you out there. That's the whole point why I started this podcast probably 2 years ago now, 3 years ago. It's been a while. But I started it because I'm so tired of the community consensus and the narratives out there, and the off season and Dynasty is the worst time of this. None of it makes sense. It's all just hyperbolic feelings, and we're trying to wade through some of that for you guys today. So hopefully, again, you guys are getting something out of this podcast. If you're ever not, let us know, because all feedback is appreciated. So that said, Dale, start us off. Who's your number 1 guy that you think is going too low in the top 100?
All right. So a guy that I feel is going criminally low is my guy, J.K. Two-Leg Dobbins.
All right.
I love J.K. Dobbins so much. I really liked him coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So in keep trade cut, he is running back 16 and the 71st player overall. Fun fact, this actually changed in a couple hours. Like he was ranked 69th overall, if that was
Nice.
anything. I know, nice. But I love J.K. Dobbins. I feel with this new offensive scheme he's going to have, it's going to be a little bit more pass friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he's not your pass catching back, I feel he has the skills to do that. And I know that Lamar Jackson doesn't necessarily dump it down to the backs, but I think he's going to do that more often. I think he's going to have more opportunities too. Like when he's scrambling out, he probably doesn't want to get injured. He probably wants to keep playing so he can play for championships and not just for AFC North titles.
Right.
So with Dobbins, like last year, he was pretty bad in the beginning of the year, but
Mm-hmm.
that was to be expected. I felt I felt he came back way too early.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
typically the second year after your ACL injury, you are pretty much back to where you were at.
Mm-hmm.
So despite him having a slow start last year, like he still averaged about 5.7 yards per carry last year,
Mm-hmm.
which is fantastic. That's what we want to see. I believe the year before he was almost at 6 yards.
Yeah, his
Carry.
rookie year.
So
Yep, he didn't
yeah, in his
play.
rookie
He didn't
year,
play in 2021.
yes,
He played 15 games in 2020. Then he had the unfortunate accident, tore his ACL in the
yeah, it's
preseason
horrific.
of
Yes.
2021. Finally was able to get back at the end of last year and was on a tear. The dude finished the season out. I mean, yeah, the 5.7 yards per carry average does not do it justice. I mean, you look at the last 4 games of the season that he played, right? 15 for 120, an 8 yard per carry average. 13 for 125, 9.62 average. 12 for 60, 5 average, so a little bit lower there. And then 17 for 93 for 5.5 average. So, those first 2 games he averaged 8.5, it's nuts. So
Wild.
very, very good player. And, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And, you were talking about the scheme and everything, and I was just looking up a little bit of stats here. So they're going to Todd Monken, who was the Georgia Bulldogs offensive coordinator. He used to be for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, you look at this, the usage of the players for the Bulldogs, and I think that's going to be a little bit of a predictor for how they're going to use these guys in the NFL. Kenny McIntosh, their leading running back last year, also had 43 receptions. I don't know exactly how many targets. It's not listed here, but
that's still fantastic in college.
Yes, exactly.
That is a fantastic number.
Yep. So 43 catches for a college running back, and then their number 2 rusher, Dejun Edwards. I don't know I'm gonna butcher that first name, but he was their number two runner. Still had 14 catches. Not terrible for college again, but you like to see a little bit more. But man, if you can get 40 catches for J.K. Dobbins, this guy is going to be a steal in your drafts. Steal. So no, I'm with you 100%. I love the value of J.K. Dobbins, so I do believe that you hit the nail on the head. What was his final value again? You said he was.
It's in keep trade cut. He was 71st, and
okay,
I'm looking here
yep.
on Sleeper, and in Sleeper he's going 64th.
Okay, so still not too bad. Pretty far down there again for a running back. He's going behind guys like Javonte Williams, who Javonte's not playing this year. I mean, he has the exact same injury as JK, and it happened at a later time in the year than when it did for JK. So, I mean, Javonte is basically J.K. Dobbins 2.0 at this point in their careers, but he's going behind guys like Nick Chubb,
Ramondre Stevenson.
I get that one a little bit for the upside, but
I get it, but also
Travis Etienne, especially after the Tank Bigsby signing, Kenneth Walker.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot of guys up there that I think it's a lot closer than what people want to admit. So, no, I'm with you 100% here. So, my number one guy here, and I actually just closed my tab. Sorry, 1 second here. My number one guy that I think people are too low on is going to be quarterback Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is going insanely low. And, I mean, most of these leagues are for Superflex and everything, but this is Superflex rankings right now. This is nuts to me, right? Jared Goff, amazing player. He's going 82nd overall as the quarterback number 19. He's going behind Jordan Love, Kenny Pickett, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. I can understand CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson for the upside on those guys, but, you know, Tua's ahead of him.
Pickett's ahead of him.
Pickett, which is egregious, by the way. That is just absolutely egregious.
Gross. That's gross.
But even Bryce Young, like, what is Bryce Young going to do that's better than Jared Goff, especially for, you know, this year and next year?
Yes,
the Lions are loaded. Just look at the weapons on this team, right? So they've got Jahmyr Gibbs, right, that they just drafted in the first round. They also have David Montgomery. They have Marvin Jones. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Jameson Williams. They have Josh Reynolds back. They drafted Sam Laporta. You know, they have one of the top 5 offensive lines in the NFL. Now, last year, Jared Goff, quarterback number 10 overall in Dynasty. Number 10. He had 587 attempts for 4,400 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. And he did a little bit on the ground, 73 rushing yards, not much. He's not a mobile guy. But you're telling me that you're going to get more out of Bryce Young than you are going to out of Jared Goff this upcoming season? What weapons do the Panthers have? What weapons? Jonathan Mingo? That's their number one wide receiver right now.
That's about it.
You know, they've got Miles Sanders. Great. Who's their tight end option? Do you even know?
Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst. Come on.
I mean, is he worth it? I don't think so.
I agree. I do agree with that.
I think it's crazy that Jared Goff is going that low. And, you know, the fact that Kenny Pickett, what are we doing here? Kenny Pickett last year, I mean, he's not a good player, first off, but just for a comparison here, just a comparison. Right? What did we see from Kenny Pickett that was inspiring at all? He played 13 games last year, 245 completions for 2,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He had a decent amount of rushing yards, you know, 237, so there is that upside there. But, I mean, what? I don't get that whatsoever. It's not like Jared Goff is old. He's only 4 years older than Kenny Pickett. Jared Goff is 28 years old. Why does everyone think that they're going to move on from Jared Goff? He's done everything that they've wanted for him for this team. So I think that the Jared Goff narrative has gone completely off the rails, and I would be more than happy having Jared Goff as quarterback number 19. If you can get him for those prices, go buy. Buy every share that you possibly can. So, any thoughts on Goff here?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that he is going very low. I think people are just fatigued with him, and I think that happens too often in fantasy football and in Dynasty especially. Just having that name fatigue, like people are just tired of drafting him. They don't really see, like they may not see the upside, but like if you're in a win now mentality, like go after Jared Goff.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not even necessarily win now. He's only 28. Like, I know it's crazy. He came out young, man. He was 21 when he was drafted, and you know everything you want to say about him with Sean McVay. Sean McVay got a lot of credit as being an offensive genius, right? And I don't know if the scheme has lived up to the hype the last couple of years. You know, for fantasy, definitely has, right? Cooper Kupp has been a stud. You can't take that away from him. But the team has consistently gotten worse. Okay, they won the Super Bowl, but you know, it's just not. There's been more down years than up, and I think that a lot of people say, "Oh, that was all Jared Goff's fault," but you know, I think it's a little bit more than that. So I think Jared Goff just has a bad rap. And, you know, if I can get Jared Goff on a discount, I'm definitely looking at it personally.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with.
All right, so who's your number 2 way too low player?
All right, so my other guy is Chris Godwin.
Okay.
He's a wide receiver with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I know a lot of people are not excited about him because he has Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball.
You're right.
Which I fully understand because Baker doesn't like to target anybody.
He liked Jarvis Landry a lot.
He liked Jarvis Landry, and I guess you could say that Chris Godwin is probably the closest thing right now on the Bucks to a Jarvis Landry type.
Yep, I'm with you.
But on keep trade cut, like he's going as wide receiver 33, which is ridiculous. Like he's going behind, he's going behind Calvin Ridley, who hasn't played in 18 months.
Yeah. He's going behind Zay Flowers, and I get it. You can like Zay Flowers, Williams. But you think Zay Flowers is going to be better than Chris Godwin? He's the number 4 option on that team as a rookie. Like, Tampa Bay is not going to be... Tampa Bay, I talked about this before, I think on this podcast, but, all rumors are they're very heavily invested in Caleb Williams next year. They're trying to tank to get Caleb Williams and get the number 1 slot next year, and going to be able to draft him next season. If Baker works out, then that's just a bonus for the team, but I don't think that he's going to, right? That said, okay, you have a little bit of a down year with Chris Godwin. I don't think you're going to have that big of a down year personally, but you're telling me that Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, they're going to be better than Chris Godwin? Mm-hmm. The volume is going to be on Godwin's side for sure. Even George Pickens, I like George Pickens, but you got him, you have George Pickens at wide receiver 27, 6 spots ahead of Chris Godwin. That's even just 6 spots. Like, I don't know. I'm with you. It's crazy to me, the disrespect that this player gets.
Yeah, it definitely is. I know he does have an injury history. Like he actually finished as wide receiver 19 in PPR leagues for playing 15 games. And really that was with a Bucks team that wasn't very good on offense. They were pretty bad.
Right.
And he's still getting 142 targets. I don't foresee him having anything big like that. I can see him having, probably like between like 110, 125 targets, which is still a good amount of targets.
Yeah.
So, I do see him taking a dip, but not like a landslide dip,
right.
Like people are thinking he's going to take.
Falling off the edge of the mountain, essentially. Exactly. No, I'm with you 100%. And again, you look at his stats last year, his yard per catch went down drastically from every other year in his career. And there has to be some of that was ACL related, right? You look at the front half versus the back half of the season, explosiveness definitely came back later on in the season. You throw into the fact that the entire offense just did not work very well last year. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's going to be great this year by any stretch. Again, I'm not crazy enough to say that, but this offense is still really good and it's very loaded, and the opportunities are definitely going to be there. He had 3 touchdowns last year. They could not score at all last year. It was bad last year. Yeah, and he's gonna beat that. And he was still the wide receiver 19 last year in a down year. And again, it's gonna be a rough year this year. I'm not expecting top 20 numbers from Chris Godwin in 2023, but in 2024 the team's gonna be gone of Mike Evans. There's been reports for years now that after this contract, they've been trying to move the contract. They've been trying to prepare for life without Mike Evans. And I think in 2024, maybe they don't get Caleb Williams. Maybe they're not bad enough to go and get that number 1 pick. This roster's kind of bad, though, to be honest. It's not a good team, and it's a tough division. It's a very competitive division. I won't say it's a tough one. All those teams are feisty down there, but they are devoid of talent. They're going to be up there. Maybe it's Drake May. Maybe it's Quinnen Ewers. Whoever ends up being one of those top quarterbacks, they're going to get one of those guys. And Chris Godwin is going to be immediately their best friend because that is just who Chris Godwin is. So I'm with you 100%. All right, so my next guy is going to be Tyreek Hill. Now, you're saying, whoa, Tyreek, come on. What are we doing here? Exactly. What are we doing here, man? Tyreek Hill is number 14 on the wide receivers. Mm-hmm. Number 14. Like, he's 36 overall. He's a top 5 player. He's going to win you your league this year, next year, the year after. Tyreek Hill is a special type of player. You cannot bet on, oh, he's 29 years old. He's close to the end. You can't bet on that with someone like Tyreek Hill. He's got speed that you cannot replicate. It's not going to fall off the same as other players. You can't predict what happens with other older wide receivers on someone who is special like Tyreek Hill, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that, JSN, I like JSN. You got JSN ahead of Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, Drake London, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith. What are we doing here? Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, his teammate, Garrett Wilson. Like, to me, it just blows my mind because for a fact, barring injury, Tyreek Hill has 3 years left. He wants to retire in 3 years when he's got 10 years in the NFL. Are you telling me in 3 years he's going to go from a top 5 player to a wide receiver 3? I don't think so. And if you can get him for wide receiver 14 value, dude, go win 2
all day, every day.
Yeah, go win 2 titles with him when he's putting up 40 points still. And there you go. I mean, 14? Are we kidding me?
I know.
That's wild. Like, I can understand really the argument for, like, Devontae Adams, right? He's a little bit older, and, the Raiders have Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not the best system, and Devontae Adams is still elite, but he is someone whose skill set will fall off quicker than a Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's a year younger than Devontae Adams and still twice as fast. Like, it's just, you can't have game-breaking speed like that and fall off a cliff, right?
Right. No, that is very true. And, and I do agree with that. I saw in Sleeper that he's averaging about wide receiver 7 is where I see him in Sleeper. So, like, if you use that platform, that's where he's going. That's
a little better. A little better.
Yeah. It is much better. But if we're just basing it on keep trade cut,
right?
Like, wide receiver 14 is egregious.
Yes,
it is egregious.
Here's the problem with that, right? And one of the reasons why it annoys me so much, because people go to keep trade cut and they use it for trade value, right? The trade value of Tyreek Hill. So on keep trade cut, he's worth 5,360 points, arbitrary number, whatever. But he definitely belongs to be a top 5 guy, at least in tier number 2. Or tier 5, I guess you could say here, tier 3, tier 4, one of these upper tiers, right? Where that's an entire 1,500 points, which is a lot of points. That's basically like a Sam Laporta, right? Which is a late second round pick. That's a lot of value that people are going to say, oh, Tyreek's not worth that now. Oh, he's not worth that extra second round pick. You're just getting it for free. So the trade value is where it really, having him that low is just absolutely egregious. So, no, Tyreek Hill, go buy him, buy Jared Goff, Dale's guys as well. Great additions. Go buy J.K. Dobbins, Chris Godwin. Yes. Get these guys and just win your league. Go win.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, so that is our 2 buy lows, I guess. Buy lows. Who's our sell highs? Who's your number 1 sell high going way too high in the consensus rankings?
Yeah, mine is CeeDee Lamb. I know you probably won't like that, but he's going as wide receiver 3.
Yep.
And
that's where I have him ranked, so that's fair.
I mean, I get it. I get it that is fairly appropriate, but I still think it's too high. I mean, I have him as my wide receiver 3, but I think I think I would rather have players like Tyreek Hill on my team. Like, I would rather, I like Stephon Diggs. I like Amon-Ra. I even like Jalen Waddle, which I know you're probably not a huge Jalen Waddle guy.
I like him. I like him a lot. I think that his upside's a little capped with Tyreek, but
yeah. So I mean, like AJ Brown is a couple spots behind him. Same with Garrett Wilson. I feel like I can get better value out of some of those guys compared to CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
And with the offensive scheme changing a little bit, I can see Dallas becoming more run heavy. And I know there's not a lot of pass catchers in Dallas, but I think they're just going to pass a lot less than what people project.
Here's the
thing,
in
my opinion.
Here's the thing, right? And I'm just gonna poke at you a little bit on this one.
Absolutely.
And the running backs for the Dallas Cowboys right now, Tony Pollard, and that's it. Deuce Vaughn, Ronald Jones, Malik Davis.
I think they got like Malik Brown or what?
Malik Davis. That's his name.
Malik Davis.
Yeah.
Davis.
So they have no real running back. They don't have Zeke anymore. They let Zeke go. Now, I expect them to get somebody. There's all these reports that the Minnesota Vikings are going to move on from Dalvin Cook post June 1st, right? So here in about 2.5 weeks. I think that Dallas is going to be all in on Dalvin Cook.
Absolutely. I can definitely see Jerry being all over him.
Right. He's better than Zeke from the same draft class, right? You drafted Zeke so high. Zeke was a better runner, but Dalvin was the better all-around player, right? But you pair Dalvin Cook with Tony Pollard. What do those two players have in common? Let's just say that they do that, right? Both amazing pass catchers. I just don't think, and I get it, they've moved on from Kellen Moore, and who is it, Brian Schottenheimer, is that the new OC, who loves to run the ball, right? He loves to run the ball, but Big Mike McCarthy is going to be calling the plays for this team. You go back to when he had Aaron Rodgers, they were very pass happy, and I just think that CeeDee Lamb is going to be the number one. He's the alpha dog, and Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, they were all very, very good under Mike McCarthy. Now, again, they had Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and I feel a difference with that is that I think towards the end, Aaron Rodgers was audibling out of a lot of plays that Mike McCarthy was calling.
Possibly.
So I do think Dak's a good quarterback, but I think he's going to try to stick to the plan as much as possible. So
he does seem like a company man, I will say that.
Yes,
but
yes, he definitely does compared to Rodgers.
I do think Mike McCarthy has a bad rap a little bit, and I think he's going to be better for this offense than people are giving him credit. I think for fantasy purposes, it might be a shit show on the field, right? But I think for fantasy purposes, CeeDee Lamb is going to be a top 10 wide receiver for sure. So
and I don't disagree with that, but with the value you're spending on him,
sure, I do get that.
That's more what I'm saying. I do think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver, but
you're saying sell high on him now while you can.
Yes.
Okay.
I would sell high on him now, and then you could try to get some of these other guys like if you wanted to get like an Amon-Ra plus, or if you want to get Tyreek Hill plus, or if you want to get Diggs plus.
Dude, if you can turn CeeDee Lamb into Tyreek Hill plus like a first or something, like
I would do that in a heartbeat. So
yeah, I can get behind that.
That's more what I'm saying is that his value is probably peaked right now.
Sure.
And at least how I foresee it, but I don't think he's going to get much better than all the stats he had last year. Like he had 156 targets, 107 catches. He had 1350, in yardage. He had 9 touchdowns. I think that's going to be
it's about a ceiling. He's so explosive. Oh my gosh.
Season. But you was still wide receiver 5, which is fantastic. Like that's what you want to see, but I don't think it's going to get a ton better than that.
Fair enough. So you heard it here first. Dale's just a Dallas Cowboys hater.
Hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for it now. Since Zeke is off the team, I can now hate Dallas.
There you go.
I'm cool with it.
So speaking of players whose value is massively overinflated, I'm going to tell you my number one guy here that is going way too high. I mentioned him already earlier. Chris Olave. He's going as wide receiver 7.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you can like Chris Olave, but he's going ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Deebo Samuel, just to name a few there. again, I like Chris Olave.
Yes.
But, you go back to his rookie season, and it was not a spectacular season. It was good. It was not spectacular. And again, he played 15 games last year. He had 119 targets, 72 catches for 1,000 yards. That is great. His yards per catch were awesome. 4 touchdowns. Is Derek Carr going to be a massive addition and upgrade over Andy Dalton last year? I don't believe so. I mean, I don't
think he'll be a big upgrade. I think he'll be more consistent compared to Andy Dalton being Andy Dalton. I think that's the biggest thing, is that there's going to be more consistency with the offense and with Chris Olave's skill set, which is more. I wouldn't consider him necessarily a slot guy, but like he's more of the Keenan Allen type. So that's where I think he'll really thrive. Like Derek Carr is not going to throw the ball downfield.
I will agree with that. He is notoriously bad for his yards per target. Right, but here's the thing, right? So last year, for example, Derek Carr played 15 games. He got benched halfway through, whatever. Andy Dalton played 14 games. Andy Dalton had 2,900 yards. Derek Carr had 3,500 yards. You had an extra game in there for Andy Dalton. He's probably around 3,000 yards. 500-yard difference. It was 24 touchdowns for Derek Carr, 18 touchdowns for Andy Dalton. Again, you had another game in there, 20 to 24. So Derek Carr's better. Don't get me wrong. But 500 yards, roughly, probably not much more than that, because I don't think that this offense is that good. Their offensive coordinator is not Sean Payton, so he's just it's not good. This whole coaching staff is on the hot seat. They're probably going to get fired after this year, I'd imagine, and then you're going to be going to a new system yet again. Derek Carr is not the solution for this team. This team last year had no Michael Thomas. Big if, Michael Thomas can get back on the field, there's no way that Chris Olave can live up to this draft capital. There's no chance. They bring in Jamal Williams. They bring in Kendre Miller from the draft. Alvin Kamara is still there. Anticipated he's going to be suspended, whatever. Yes. But they went hard for this running back room. This is a very, very good running back room. I don't think they're going to be pass happy. And again, I like Chris Olave. I think he has potential to be a very, very good player. But Amon-Ra St. Brown's going behind him. You're telling me that you wouldn't rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown? There's a 6-month age gap difference between those two guys. Like, that's crazy to me. Amon-Ra is just a proven guy. Devonta Smith, I'm not even a big Devonta Smith fan. He's going to help you more than Chris Olave is. Higgins.
I think Chris Olave is going to probably be the one in that offense, and I would rather have in my opinion, I would rather have Chris Olave.
That's where it's debatable.
I do understand the Amon-Ra thing. I get that.
T. Higgins. T. Higgins is the number 2, and I'd definitely rather have T. Higgins. 100%.
That's fair.
Drake London. I'd rather have Drake London.
So I will say that in Sleeper that Chris Olave is going as the wide receiver 12.
Okay,
which
that's
is
better.
Probably
it's better.
Yeah, I was about to say that's probably better. Which like for keep trade cut, like it's with all the it's with all the formats and in different leagues and stuff like that.
Right.
So it all depends on your league mates who's drafting. Like, but it's what Calvin's saying is that. I do agree that Olave is fairly overrated at wide receiver 7.
Yeah, and again, this is just like CeeDee Lamb. It's not that Chris Olave can't be good, but if you can get wide receiver 7 value for Chris Olave,
100%
dude, 100% do that. Like according to Keep Trade Cut, again, it's not the end all be all, but if you can trade him for DK Metcalf and just pick up an extra second next year. Yes, sign me up all day. Sign me up 100%. All day. DK Metcalf, there's not that big of a difference between those two players. Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, these guys are going much later than Chris Olave, and I think that they have the potential to outscore him this year and next year and probably the year after. Deebo Samuel, don't even get me started on him at wide receiver 23. Like, it's just crazy. And I know there's a lot of good receivers out there, but man, it just, that is so unsustainable, and people are elevating him. And in a year's time, when he doesn't live up to that, he's going to plummet down boards, and you're going to lose out all that value. So, we've
100%.
seen this year after year after year. Like, running backs, it's much worse, but yeah, it's just, he cannot live up to that value. It's just not possible.
Agreed.
So, all right, who's your number 2 guy here?
All right, so my other guy is going to be a rookie with Anthony Richardson. Now, I know a lot of people will be like, he had the best physical traits in the combine that we've ever seen. Stuff like this. Like, I get it. I get it. Like, the dude is a physical freak. I will never deny that. But he is not a good quarterback.
Not yet.
I don't. You can believe that's fine, but I would like if I with keep trade cut, like, he's going as quarterback 9.
Yep.
And in sleeper he's going at quarterback 10.
Okay, so it's pretty consistent. Pretty close.
Yeah. So yeah. Like, those are pretty close. So like, with him going at like pick 20 in sleeper, which that is a second round pick in your startups.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I get the hype. I get it. But, I don't think he's going to be Lamar Jackson. I don't think that. I don't think he'll even be anywhere close. And that's what people are projecting him to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that is scary to me. And if I have him, I will trade that. I will trade him to that player, try to get as much value as I can. Because, I just don't, I think he's going to be very serviceable for a very small amount of time, for maybe a year or two, if at all. I don't really see him putting it all together. I'm not saying that he's not a good leader of men. I just don't think he can throw the ball to somebody, on a very consistent basis.
We will see. And that's the one thing where I know you and I disagree on this a little bit, and that's fair. That's totally fair.
And that's fine. But I don't see his weapons are okay.
That is true.
Like,
the weapons are not great.
With Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, they're okay. Like, they're probably not going to re-sign Pittman.
Right.
So they'll have Pierce and Downs there with Jonathan Taylor. So is he just gonna just like chuck it down to Jonathan Taylor every other down because he has to, because he can't throw the ball more than 20 yards down the field accurately?
Right.
That's kind of what I see is going to happen in Indy. And with the comparisons with Lamar Jackson, like, Lamar Jackson was a far better thrower of the ball
100%
than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
So I wish people would stop with that narrative. And
it all comes down to if he can fix his mechanics, right? Because that's what causes a lot of the inaccuracy, right? I've listened to a lot of people talk about AR since the draft, right? Yeah. And even leading up to the draft, everybody had opinions on it and everything like that. And the number one thing that I've heard about him, and I've seen this as well, right, when we watch some of the tape, but he likes to stick in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't look to run first. He has all the tools in the world to run first, which is great. You have a mobile guy, but he wants to hang in the pocket a little bit longer to make those completions. Now, that said, he has a terrible completion percentage, right? His mechanics are terrible. Like, his feet and his hips are just off, right? And that's what leads to the inaccuracy down to down. But, number 4 overall pick, you hire a trainer, you spend the next 6 months fixing it. I'm not saying he can fix it all in a year or 2 years. It's doable. That's the only reason I don't want to sign. I don't want to write him off yet, but
it's going to be very interesting because of how it's going to be. Well, because a couple years ago, like, we saw these like 5th-year option players as a gold mine, in that they're going to have at least 4 years to figure it out.
Right.
But we have instances like Zach Wilson,
Sure.
who who only played 2 years and now he's out of a starting job because he's garbage and he was a 1-year wonder.
Right.
And that's where I feel that Richardson more falls, is that he's this athletic freak,
Right.
which is great in the NFL, but like you have to have,
It's true. It is true.
more of that to be a
Yeah.
star.
Yep. It'll 100% come down to coaching. And I'm not saying you're wrong by any means, but I just want to say it, a lot of times to make our points, we talk in definitives, right? Like, no, he'll never do it. It's like, you don't believe that either. I know there's a chance that he could definitely develop.
There is. And
you're just betting against it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm fairly hopeful I'm not a Colts fan by any means, but they are one of our local teams, and they've been bad for.
I'm hoping he's good, just so enjoyable.
Yes. And I just want to watch a game that isn't Matt Ryan throwing to the dirt half the time and getting sacked every other play. Like I just want to watch something interesting. But I've seen too many quarterbacks that have been hyped like him flame out quick.
Yep.
And I think I would rather bet to that than him being the mean breaker, I guess you could say.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. So definitely worth a haul right now if you do move on from him
100%.
in Dynasty. Yes, so if you can get multiple picks, I've seen there are a couple leagues where I've seen him go 101 in Superflex over Bijan Robinson.
That is wild to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy.
Like I get it because because there's not as many quarterbacks.
Right.
I get it. Like but like you have to see okay, I'm just I just need to move on from Anthony.
Right. Yeah.
And you can go with your last guy.
Hey, luckily Keep Trade Cut has Bijan ahead of him, just barely, but
thankfully, just barely.
All right, so continuing the hate on the rookies here, we're going to talk about one more rookie that I think is being overvalued a little bit too much here, and that's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, running back for Detroit. And I get it, it's rookie season, it's rookie fever. Everybody loves these guys, but he's going as RB5 right now, and what are we doing? Like, at least Bijan has a profile of generational talent that we haven't seen since Saquon Barkley, right? Or even before that, like Adrian Peterson. But like Jahmyr Gibbs is a small guy. He's only 200 pounds, 199 technically. Didn't get over that 200 mark. He'll be 200 by the start of the season. I believe that fully once he gets on an NFL diet and all that stuff. But he's a smaller guy, right? And I think he is a very good player. Very, very good. Austin Eckler is the upside for Jahmyr Gibbs. 100% it's going to be Austin Eckler. Catches a million balls and is very explosive, very elusive. I can see that a lot in Jahmyr Gibbs' game. But at running back 5, he's going ahead of Saquon Barkley. He's going ahead of, running back is just rough right now. He's going ahead of Austin Eckler. That one I can kind of understand. Josh Jacobs, we're still discounting him a little bit. Tony Pollard, Najee Harris. Najee's gotten a lot of flack lately as well. J.K. Dobbins, we talked about earlier. Even Derrick Henry, if you want to win, like Derrick Henry's going to be better to help you win now than probably Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, I just don't think the path to volume is there. I can see the world. I really can. Especially it really helps that Jameson Williams was suspended for 6 games. I think that's going to open Jahmyr 100%. Gibbs up to start a little bit stronger. But man, he's got to be so good so quick. And we do this every year where we just run guys up the board because we don't love the other options as much. And it's unfair to that player because if he does not live up to that, he's going to get crushed. I mean, look at running back, I talked about it earlier. It's notorious for this. Every single year, we run guys up the board and something happens and they just cannot live up to it. Last year, Javonte Williams gets injured. The year before that, Miles Sanders. The year before that, you had, Travis Etienne. Well, no, not Najee Harris, right? Najee Harris was the one before that. And it's like, we got to stop running these guys up the board so quickly before they're able to establish a pattern of dominance, especially at the running back position, right? There's so much turnover for these guys. The reason why Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley and some of these guys, for years, their value was insulated, right? Even if they had a little bit of a down year. Christian McCaffrey, it's because of the years of sustained success, right? They're not one-hit wonders. They are able to replicate it year after year. Running Jahmyr Gibbs up that high, can he do that? Yes. You're taking a massive risk, though, taking him over some of these other guys. So, just don't fall into the hype of rookie fever. I like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot. I really, really do. But I don't think he's going to be able to produce as much as people want him to in year number one. Then this is all just based on risk, right? I'm not even talking about the Barry Sanders curse, man. The Detroit Lions can't have a running back. What are you guys doing?
Right.
I mean, Jamal Williams broke the curse kind of only because he had like 1 million touchdowns last year. I think it was 19 touchdowns, 18 touchdowns.
It's with Jamal Williams. He had like 10 or 12 1-yard touchdowds.
Yeah, exactly.
It was something ridiculous.
He vultured it. He tricked the curse. Jahmyr Gibbs just a little bit too high for my blood right now, and I get it.
I mean,
but
I completely agree. In Sleeper, he is going as running back 8.
Okay, a little bit better.
Which I feel is a little bit better.
Top 10 is still risky, man. It's risky.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think there's a lot to be seen with this Lions offense and what they're gonna do. I think they're gonna probably still have a semi committee. So even though Jahmyr Gibbs is gonna be the lead back,
maybe David Montgomery's
even maybe
good.
So. I think it's interesting that they were cheering and hooping and hollering over Jahmyr Gibbs when they could have had Bijan Robinson at 6.
I know.
I get it. They really like Jahmyr Gibbs and what they want to do on offense, which is great. But
the other risk too, you've mentioned it a couple times. The Lions, good offense last year, very, very good offense. Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, had head coaching interest this last year, right? Decided not to interview to be a head coach, wanted to go back and be OC. I respect that. I respect the hell out of that, to be honest with you. Not everybody's made to be a head coach. We got to stop pushing everybody to be a head coach. Sometimes you just let people be really good offensive coordinators. That it's great. We need more of these guys. But if, they are good again this year, he's gone. He's 100% gone. He's going to get really good coaching options next year, and I think that they're going to move, like, some team out there is going to throw a bucket load of money at Ben Johnson to come be the starting head coach for the team, and, so that's going to mean a new offensive system, and we have no idea what it's going to look like, and, it's a risk. So, again, could he live up to this? Yes. But there's a lot more risk than reward right now, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs. So any other thoughts on these guys that we talked about here today?
I don't think so, but I think the big thing with the guys we talked about that we're not so high on is that if you have those guys and you feel you can capitalize on their value, do it. Do it. Just do it. I would recommend it because you can get a good player and something else.
Yep, exactly. And same with the guys that we're saying are going too low. They're league winners, man. They're guys that you're going to get for pennies on the dollar, and they're going to help you win your league. And that's what we're ultimately here for, right? You don't want to just have the prettiest roster on paper. You want to score fantasy points, and that's where, selling high on some of these players like Chris Olave. Can he be a good wide receiver? Yes, but you can get a good wide receiver and something else with him right now. So,
100%.
ADP. It's always good to review this. Again, we're using Keep Trade Cut just because it's community rankings, but There's other places you can get it, Sleeper, ESPN, things like that. So just make sure you understand wherever you're drafting what the average draft position of these players are, so you know where the holes are and the gaps. And if you ever have any questions, hit us up on YouTube, hit us up on Twitter. Again, you can find us on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale. And yeah, we're going to be here all offseason helping you guys with any draft questions you guys might have. So until next time, thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show, going through the ADP here, and have a good night.